Hey, Matt, it's Jasper. How's it going?
Jasper, how's it going? I'm doing pretty well.
Not too bad, man. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, definitely. So you are the frontman and co-founder of a band called In My Coma, but you were actually, Jasper, born in the UK, were you not?
I was. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's the story on how you kind of came to Canada and just landed in Toronto to help form this band?
Well, I didn't really have much say in coming to Canada because I was maybe 3 years old at the time. But I was lucky enough to have my accent until I hit puberty, and then it disappeared and turned into what it is today.
Oh, really?
Almost seemingly overnight. I went from, hello, how's it going, to what's for breakfast?
That's pretty hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
I've heard of people losing accents over time, but that's something else.
You know what? Yeah, and so ended up living in the KW area and stuff like that, but I've been all over the place. I went to high school in Tampa, and then moved back to Hamilton area, which is kind of where I am now. So I live in Hamilton, but the others are kind of scattered around the GTA. So Mike's in like Etobicoke, Lynn's a little bit further north, and Laura's in Hamilton too.
Okay, cool. So based on my personal experience, I've actually found it very difficult to coordinate practices and just general things you have to do as a band with people who are all over the place, especially like in a place like Toronto, when there's so many suburban cities and everyone can kind of be at a different place. So how do you guys kind of make that work in terms of like communication and weekly commitments and stuff like that?
You know what? I think that's kind of an evolution of being in a band, right? It's kind of like a family. You make things work one way or another. And, we've just sort of found times that work for us, and we coordinate our schedules. Plus, we're all, really dedicated to this. So
right, yeah, that's important too.
It's pretty high up on our priorities list. So if there's a rehearsal or something like that, we do what we need to in order to make it. So, we're pretty dedicated. I'd say we get, 3 rehearsals in a week, and we make one of those an acoustic rehearsal, and we just, go at it.
Cool. Whatever works, man.
Like a middle ground. We found a middle ground rehearsal space in Etobicoke too, so we don't have to fight any of the traffic going into the downtown core.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I do want to get talking about the newest album you guys have released that's titled Next Life. It's actually your first release, I believe, since your debut album came out way back in 2011. That's a pretty substantial period of time, especially for like a Toronto, a smaller, almost local band. How much has changed within the band over that period of time, and how has it affected your overall process when it comes to just writing music?
Yeah, so it was, when we released that first album, it was our, obviously it was the first album, but it was the first piece of music that we'd put out there. And we did a lot of it on our own, so, we didn't have any backing behind us or anything like that. It was kind of just, let's get something out there so people have something to hear, and we'll, work it ourselves. And, we don't have relatives in the music industry. We don't have connections that other people have or anything. So when I say we started out pretty green with this stuff, I absolutely mean it. So after releasing that album, it just became, hustle and bustle. Let's play as many shows as we can. We probably sucked at our first few shows, and then, starting to get the hang of it, and, you figure things out along the way. For the second album, this was a little bit different because when we came to this, we honed our craft a little bit more. We were, fortunate enough to get some backing from Factor Canada for the album. And then, we got some really great opportunities to open for the band Moist, and then we opened for USS at the CNE.
Oh, that's awesome.
102.1 The Edge handpicked us, and the band handpicked us to open the show. So that was, just really cool. That was in September. And it was at that show that we then got a radio promoter, a booking agent from Feldman Agency really liked us and signed on with us. And so, lo and behold, seemingly over last summer, we suddenly had this team around us. Mark McAway from Moist produced the record, and their manager liked us a lot as well and took us on. So now all of a sudden, when we're releasing a second album, we've got an entire team backing us and people that believe in us. And it's kind of a different experience when you do it that way, because we're used to calling all of the shots ourselves and having to figure things out for ourselves. Suddenly, when you have people that know better than you at how to release things and when, and all the ins and outs of it, it's you have so much more free time to focus on the music and how your performance is going to be and what you're writing and things like that.
Yeah. And it's crazy too how much stuff is happening behind the scenes too. A lot of people, I don't think, realize it. It seems like the band's kind of at the front of it all, but you guys are just focusing on what you do best, and obviously a lot of other people are kind of handling the behind the scenes stuff, which is really cool too, I think.
For sure, yeah. And it's crazy how much that happens. Like, I just went onto my phone maybe 5 minutes ago to look at the email I sent out seemingly half an hour before that, and I was like, I thought it would be one of the most recent emails, and I had to scroll through 20 emails or something like that I'd done in half an hour, all band related. It's just,
oh wow.
I kind of thought to myself, that's a ton. Like, what is going on? What are all these emails? Some of them are jokes. I wrote to some. We're playing it, like, we're doing a cover song in our single at Q107 on Thursday for something they call Take Two, which they'll post on their Facebook and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I sent a joke or something telling the guy we were going to bring a bunch of bagpipes for the performance just to freak him out.
So on this new record too, there seems to be a lot of focus on the lyrical work of it. I haven't heard your older album, but that's something that really stood out to me on Next Life. Run me through kind of your songwriting process and what's like your biggest influence and motivation for just writing lyrics and how to turn, knowledge from life experiences into song and just that whole process.
Yeah, that's a pretty, I love that question because, going from 2011 to now, a lot has changed. And, we've all matured, our lives, go in certain directions. And when writing this album, we all decided that it's not worth doing it if it's not going to be fun. And so we kind of had this huddle before we went into this album. We told ourselves, this album is going to mean something to us, and we're going to have a blast at every stage of it. And so when it came to the lyrical content, we wanted it to mean something. And so the title track and the opening song of the album, Next Life, when I wrote that was a result of the album writing process with Mark as producer and everything, because we had a bunch of the songs written already, but Next Life was the last song written for this album, and it ended up being the title track of the album because he and I had a bunch of conversations about what is this album about. There are a lot of messages of seeming despair and things like that, but then it always comes full circle to this theme of hope. So all these scary aspects of life, whether you're a couple, whether you're having family trouble, business trouble, or, political trouble in this climate and things like that, that there's always hope for a better future. And that's kind of the message we wanted to get out there. And Mark was talking to me and he's like, you need a song that embodies that message and gets across the fact that it's, a crazy, dangerous, happy, joyful life right now. And that even if you're not experiencing the best parts of it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And there's always a new world to uncover. And, that resonated with us as a band because with the first album, we did have a lot of ups and downs trying to make our way on our own. Because there are so many other bands out there that want to get recognized, and a lot of those bands are good. So you're kind of in this debris of bands all over the place trying to find a way to make a name for yourself. And after struggling through that, this new album with all the opportunities that came along with it seemed like a next life for us. So it means something deeply personal to us on a band level as much as it means something on a macro level as in where the world is right now. should be a philosophy teacher. Holy shit.
Yeah, no kidding. That's good though, because I find a lot of bands too, they kind of have their focus in the wrong place, and just the fact that you guys realize the importance of lyrics and message and theme and all that stuff, I think that kind of gives you an edge over someone who is doing stuff themselves and is focusing on their next show or how the album is produced or sounding. But it's cool to see how everyone's going at it differently and where their head's at.
Sure.
But you guys, I'm not talking to the band here, but you mentioned to me earlier that you guys are, you were at a point where you were just playing show after show after show, and you guys, I think, have been on the road quite a bit in cross-province or cross-country tours since your formation, and a lot of local rock bands are kind of realizing that's the best way to get their music out there, or that's how they think would be the best way to get their music out there. In your experience, what is the best way to go about touring, whether it be how you book your shows or any of the elements that go into that?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on what you're going for, right? It's kind of, there's no one thing that works. It's a combination of all the little things, and eventually it ends up being, one of these stories of greater than the sum of all of its parts. Once you put all of these things together, and you build up your experience that way. We toured Canada in 2013, I think it was, from coast to coast in April, thinking it was going to be fun spring weather and things like that. And we get this Saskatoon and it's minus 18 degrees outside.
Oh, jeez.
I don't have enough warm socks, and I'm the lead singer, so I'm sitting in the back of the van bitching about my voice and how difficult it's going to be, and needing more honey tea, and telling Mike that I need more honey tea. Mike, go get me some honey tea, blah, 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 right? But those trials and tribulations that you go through are really important because it bonds you as a group. And if you can get through stuff like that, then you'll get through some of the more daunting times. And that's something that we experience. We've bonded as a unit over those experiences, and it's helped us out when it's come to needing to pick each other up when other things have happened. When somebody's having a down day, and it doesn't have to be music related, but just, as a group of friends, somebody's down for something, each one of us has the power to do something to help the other one out. And I think that's what makes our band pretty powerful, is that we have that sort of connection between each other. As far as what I think our best decision was, is we stopped playing show after show. We decided we're not going to play any of these small local shows anymore. We're going to hold out for bigger and better opportunities, so that when we do play a show locally, there's a little bit more to talk about. So we did that. We stuck to our guns with that, and then once we made that decision, we opened for Sum 41, sold out show at the Phoenix a couple of years back. That one was on our own. We got the USS show, and then our management were able to get us the shows opening for Moist. We've got another cool announcement for the summer, at least one for now, that I can't tell you about just yet. I know, sorry. I'll email you once it's good to go, though.
Sure, yeah.
And then, and we've got these other shows. We even opened for Nazareth over the last little while.
Oh, really?
And here's the thing. What we noticed is once we started doing that, we were actually getting out to a bigger audience. And then when we played our local shows, people would show up, and they would come up to us afterwards, and they'd say things like, "Hey, guys, we saw you guys open for Nazareth, and we saw you were playing here, so we came out to check you out." Same thing happened in Waterloo. Someone said, "We were at the CNE, and we saw you guys open for USS, and so we wanted to catch you guys when you were coming through town." And that's where it starts to happen, right?
Yeah.
Is you get out to those audiences, and word starts to get around.
For sure. And I always think, too, it's in a certain way, it's definitely much better to play one show for 100 people than 10 shows for 10 people,
Exactly.
So that's really cool. So now you guys have your album out. You've got the entire team behind it, the marketing and touring, and everything's kind of covered. What are you guys shifting your focus on now? I know you said you got some plans ahead that you can't tell me about, but anything you really just want to focus on for the time being?
Well, yeah, actually, one of the best parts of being in a band is figuring out what kind of a show you're going to get across. And that was one of the best parts of writing this album. And I always say this, but it was kind of like we wrote two albums. We wrote the one that's printed and the one that's, sellable on iTunes and all that stuff. And then the other one was what we're going to play live. And, there are certain things that Laura's doing on the album with her bass that are really cool, but are typically hidden underneath vocals. And so we sat down in rehearsal and discussed what parts were cool that we wanted to maybe elongate for the live show. So any of that stuff that Laura's doing on the album that's sort of hidden underneath vocals and things like that, we maybe emphasize those parts live a little bit. So I'll, bring out an open D power chord or something like that and let Laura just go nuts on the bass for a little bit before I start singing the second verse.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun, figuring out how to make the show not just a repetition of the album, but an actual show to witness and to be a part of, something a little bit different from the album itself.
For sure, yeah. That's really cool, because even for people unfamiliar with the album, you've got a good show. But for people that do, say, know the song word for word, if you're doing anything different, it just gives them another reason to catch you live next time in case something does change from the other songs, right?
For sure, and it's familiar enough that, songs aren't changed. People aren't going to be angry with us, like, you took out a chorus or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's different enough that the experience is going to be unique.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your afternoons just to chat with me. One last question I do have for you is I want to know, whether it be with the band or in your own personal life, what is on your bucket list?
Oh, full circle, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my bucket list. So I'll give you a musical one first.
Sure.
The musical one is, it would be amazing to have a crowd sing back a chorus that I've written. That would be pretty incredible. And it's happened in bits and pieces, but like a big crowd.
Yeah.
Then, bucket list. What do I want to do? I would say, I don't want it to be cheesy or boring. I want to perform live. I want to play my acoustic guitar inside a dormant volcano in Iceland. How's that sound?
How does that sound cheesy or boring, man? That's creative. I like that.
Yeah, there we go.
Hell yeah. That's really cool, man. All right. Well, thanks a lot for chatting with me.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
Right. You too. Cheers.
Cheers.